Welcome, everybody. My name is Cindy Gay, and today is Monday, April 27th. Another Monday, another week of the COVID crisis, and I am bringing a rug cooking lesson to you 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on YouTube. Today's lesson is going to be about rug cooking kits. And when you think of a kit, when you go to any other craft and you get a kit, with instructions, and you're going to be making it exactly like the picture on the cover. That rarely happens in rug cooking. That's like the first thing you need to know. Because what happens is either the wools have been hand dyed, and so the odds of being able to hand dye them to perfectly match could be kind of slim. The other thing is if they have, I hope this is charging. If they have off the bolt textures in there, those disappear. So they get made, everybody buys them, and then they're gone. And you can't get them again. So you can't exactly duplicate what someone else did years ago, right? So what you get in a rug cooking kit is going to be a close approximation. Or what I prefer is a custom rug kit just for you. And that's what I do. I do what I call color plans. And those are a pattern, and then you buy all the wool that you're going to need to hook that. And what my job is as the teacher is to determine what wools you need, how much of each of the wools. So even though it sounds incredibly expensive because you're buying a lot of wool all at once, it's really cheaper because you're only buying what you need for that particular rug. Otherwise, you walk around and you buy a yard of this, a yard of that, and you hope that someday, somewhere, you're going to use it, right? But you're still spending money on it. So a lot of times, getting a full color plan is actually cheaper in the long run because you're only buying what you absolutely need. And you're getting it put together by someone who's got some expertise, right? Most rug cooking teachers will do this for you. Most of the time, when it is done is when you're going to rug camp. And you sign up for a rug camp, and the teacher communicates with you in advance of the class. She finds out what colors you like. Do you want a full color plan? Are you going to kind of wing it on your own during class? Then she'll bring some of those colors you like, or she'll bring you this wonderful package with everything all diagrammed out and ready to go. At least that's how I do my color plans for people who want full color plans. So when you're out there and you're shopping for rug cooking kits, you're going to find some pre-made ones. But a couple things I find that you need to look for to be sure you know what you're getting. Find out what the backing is. Okay, is the backing burlap? Burlap is the cheapest backing, but that's the problem. It's the cheapest backing. It takes the same amount of work, the same amount of expense in wool to hook a rug on burlap as it does on linen or rugwarp. And you might as well use good backing because the backing is the first part of the rug that's going to die. So we want to make sure that we're using the best possible backing that we can, right? I don't recommend monk's cloth. So you might have thought, well, hey, what about monk's cloth? For a beginner, if you see a pattern and it's being offered on monk's cloth, and you have the option to upgrade to linen or rugwarp, take the upgrade. Monk's cloth is the hardest backing for beginners to hook into. It has a 2x2 weave like this, and if you get your hook down in between those two threads, it can be really hard, depending on what hook you're using, to pull that loop up. So you'll be much more successful if you're using linen or rugwarp. Now, some kits will come with the wool already pre-cut, and you might think that's a good advantage. I don't think it is. To hook or to cut your own wool, all you really need is something like this. Okay, these are my favorite. And I've talked about these before, and I like these because my fingers fit in them, right? I don't have these little teeny tiny holes, okay? So there's nothing special about these. I bought these on Amazon. They're Tim Holtz. You can use, I'll put a link in the YouTube notes below this. You can use that, or you can use something like this, which is probably 97 cents at Walmart during school season, which they probably have it during off season too, but nothing fancy, right? What you're looking for and what's important is that it has a short blade, because it's incredibly difficult to cut long strips of wool using long bladed scissors. Doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means it's a little bit more difficult. And I've got videos, and I'll put a link to the videos on cutting wool with this video later. But that's all you really need. So you don't need it cut. And the reason you don't want it cut is A, gives you a chance to see the quality of the wool before it's cut. B, it gives you a chance to change the cut size, okay? What if you're brand new and you start pulling up loops and you're really struggling because it's really hard with the way your hands are and maybe your arthritis or whatever to pull that loop up, and it's a big old number 8 cut. A 6 would be a little bit easier, but once they're cut, there's not much you can do about it. So having it uncut is actually better. And then just learn to do your own cutting. I would cut it just enough that you need at a time. Don't cut a whole bunch at once for the same reason. If you have a bunch of it cut in number 8 and then you need a 6, sure, you can take the 8s and cut them down. But what if you cut a bunch in a 6 and you want them in 8s? There's not a dang thing you can do. So keep your wool as uncut as possible. Okay, that's going to be your best bet. I told you about the backing. The other thing is to find out how many inches of backing do you have beyond the design. I like to see a lot. Okay, typical, you're going to see 4 to 6. That's what most designers will do. Depending on who you're working with, you can talk to them and say, okay, this is the design. I have an idea to put a border on it of my own. Can you give me 18-inch borders on the outside edge? And most designers will do that for you. They'll have to specially draw that pattern, and they will upcharge you for it. But if your dream is to put this big, beautiful border on it, that's really the only way to go. And that's going to be your best bet. We're going to have some barking because the mailman just pulled up. Oh, shoot. I thought maybe they missed me for today. What else? Oh, and on my website, there is, Juju, on my website, there is a chart that will help you to determine there's a chart on my website that'll help you to determine, and I'll put a link below this video once I am done here, and I'll get it edited up. And it'll tell you how much you should be paying for certain square inches or weight, that kind of thing, just based on a standard. I'll have to look at and see if the prices have been updated, but that'll give you an idea to know if you're getting a good bargain or not. Sometimes it's actually cheaper to buy the pattern and then buy the pieces and parts of the wool that you need separately. Okay, it's easier to buy it in a kit, but it just depends on how it's been priced by the vendor. Now, the next thing you need to know is, where do you go? And I have a couple trusted vendors. You can always get in touch with me, depending on my work schedule. If I'll have time for it, I'd be happy to do that for you. The other place you can go is spruceridgestudios.com. Chris Miller at Spruce Ridge actually draws my patterns for me. She's got buys the wool from the same place I do. She's got good quality wool. She's got a good color sense. You can get that there. If you want brighter colors and hand-dyed wool and maybe even a smaller kit, right? Then I would go to Because of You. My friend Kim is a master in the dye pot, and she will customize it however you want. If you don't see what you want, make sure you get in touch with her, right? It's impossible to predict what everybody wants. So if you want something a little bit more custom, again, based on time and what she's got on her schedule, but get in touch with her and see if that's a possibility. So a kit is a possibility. It is something you can do. Just don't. I had really bad luck when I was first starting. That was 20 years ago. Chances are those vendors are no longer in business. But I had terrible luck when I was buying kits with cut wool. The quality just wasn't there. The way they cut it really wasn't good. I would have been better off myself just folding the wool and hacking at it. But that's my spiel on rug hooking kits. I hope you find the kit you want. If you want something small, consider some of my stair riser patterns. Those I can color plan pretty quickly for you because I've done them so often. So good luck rug hooking and go find that kit. Okay, let's answer questions. Hopefully my mouse is working. Oh boy. This is not going to work. Oh no. Okay, so I am not going to be able to put questions on the screen. But I can't even go back up and see your questions. So I am going to answer. I'm going to answer. Looks like Sonia was answering a question. I'm going to anticipate what that question was. And it's about how much wool do you need? And if you take and you fold your wool a minimum, in my opinion, of 4 times, you might have to go 5 or 6, but 4 layers, cover it over the motif, that's how much that little piece will hook. My strategy is if it's going to be red, hook it with 10 different reds, because if you run out of 1 or 2 of them and you have to bring in, another red, it's going to blend right in. You don't have to take anything out and put more stuff in. You can just keep on hooking. That's my strategy, and it works really good. So if you've answered a question or asked a question so far, can you ask it again so I can see it? Because I can't page up. Okay. Pinky is saying, thanks for clarifying scissors work. That's what's holding me up, as I don't have a wool cutter. You do not need a wool cutter. I know the size can be wider that is cut of wool. Is there a size linen that will work well? I know the size can be wider that is cut. Is there a size? You can buy primitive linen and fine cut linen. What I carry in my store is primitive linen. Linen is not my favorite. I have animals. I am constantly repairing linen rugs because loops simply fall out of them and I have to pop them back up in there. So I use rug warp. Lily is asking, can I pick a kit from you and do color planning for it? Yeah, you can tell me what pattern of mine you want. Like I said, the ones that I know I can knock out and get to you in a reasonable amount of time is going to be the stair risers. It's a great place to start. Those will run with the pattern and with the wool about $100 plus shipping. Elizabeth is saying, do you recommend using a rotary cutter to cut wool? No, I do not. These are going to be better. Why? Because you're going to rip it about every inch and then cut. So you're going to stay on the straight of grain. With a rotary cutter, you're going to get totally off the straight of grain. Where do I find the instructions to hook and assemble your pencil pouch? When you buy a pencil pouch from me, I enroll you in the pencil pouch purse kit or course. And so you just log into the dashboard and the instructions are there. Lily said, also, I just had a designer do a drawing for me. If I send to you, can you do the colors for it and I buy? Not at this time. I am just too busy, Lily. I cannot do that justice. I have a class, fingers crossed, in August at Sauter Village, and I need to color plan for those people. So I cannot take on anything, particularly something I've never hooked before. How do you know what size to cut? Okay, so where did I put? And this is something that I recommend that you work up. I use it because I teach, but this would be handy for you. And there's a paper one that you can print off my website. And this shows you the various cut sizes. Okay. And what you can do, what I'll do with a student to kind of illustrate is I'll fold it like this. I'll lay it on their pattern. And it's like, okay, this fills up the space better. So this will do a number 7. Okay, if we have access to everything. Okay, but cut strips of the wool, and these are just laced through a scrap piece of wool and tied with a knot and marker on the top. I mean, it's nothing fancy, but this will get you there. And when I clean up this video, I'll put below it the link to the printout for printing this, because I think that was on the public site. How do you know? How do you know what the grain is? It rips along the grain. What do I have that I could rip? Okay, so this came out of the dye pot. This came out of the dye pot recently. It's supposed to be brown, and it ended up this wonderful color because it was one I added in late when the dye still had dye in the pot, but the color was so pretty. It was like, ooh, put a piece of natural in there, and that's what I did. So this one's mine. So to rip it is you can snip it or you can tear it with your fingers, but I usually snip it, and then you simply rip it. And it stays perfectly along the straight of grain. You want to do that. You do not want to go, and if you do have a cutter, you never, ever, ever want to go to your cutter, in my opinion, with a piece of wool that is this big. That's too wide. So I always rip it this big, which is a 1/16 of a yard. And I remember that lesson. I don't remember who asked it, but I do want to go back to that question about how I rip wool and fold it for my shelving. But this is how big it should be when you take it to the cutter. You can control this. If it's twice the size, you cannot control it. And why try to cut a little bit off of a great big giant piece? Let's get this down. I'll often just take and rip a small piece off of this and take that to the cutter if that's all I want. Particularly if I want less than what my cutter normally gives me, right? Okay. Sally is asking, when do I fold forward? How much do I leave for linen? You're going to have to experiment because not all linens are created equal. And the size of the cording, what should it be? You're going to have to experiment. Not all linens are created equal. I have some that is 1/8 inch. Is that good? If it's like a number 3 cut, that might be good. Ideally, you want the fold forward bundle to be about as high as the loop. So you typically need a much bigger piece of cording than what than 1/8 of an inch. So Lily, how do I cut with scissors? I covered that in a previous video. And give me a couple hours, and below this video on YouTube, I will post the link to that video. Norma is saying, I have a pillow top already completed. How do I attach sashing to it so that it butts right up to the hooking edge? Do you fold under the edge of the sashing that butts up? Yes, I fold the edge under, but what I would personally do, Norma, is I would rip out the last 2 rows of rug hooking. I would sew on the sashing, and then I would rehook them, because that is much easier than trying to get that super close. I mean, you can do it. Knock yourself out. I never do it that way. I always make sure that, in fact, on the Village of Pemberville, I ripped out 2 rows all the way around that rug just to sew on the edging for that, which is similar to how you do the sashing, and then hooked up to it. And it saved me a ton of time. So then we don't need to fold and snip. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Elizabeth is saying, other than a thread pull on linen, don't know what that is. Are there any other reasons you do not like using it? I don't know what a thread pull. Are you talking about to find the straight of grain on linen? I just use a pencil and go, and it's a little harder on linen than it is on rugwort, but it works. I don't like linen for a whole host of things. It triggers my allergies. It does not lay on the floor. It tends to wrinkle. It's not as heavy. It doesn't hold the loops as tight. When I'm sewing the edge, it doesn't feel like fabric. It feels like it's cracking. Yeah, there's a whole list. And I've got a video, my most popular video on YouTube is the differences between the different backings. Go watch that one. Debbie is saying, I see Spruce Ridge has a couple of your stool patterns, but I don't see the rugwarp option, only linen and monk's cloth. Do you know? Oh, there should not be a monk's cloth. Do you know if they do rugwarp? They do. You can order the exact same patterns from me on my website, and I have the rugwarp option, and I get a little extra money for it if you order it from me. But if you want to order it from Spruce Ridge, just ask her. She'll do it. She does it all the time on rugwort, but the footstools are not supposed to be on monk's cloth, because monk's cloth stretches, and on a stool, it's not a good look. It looks like saggy, baggy old lady, and it's just not a good thing. I can't even move the cursor. How do I contact with the kit I want and the wool color planning? Lily, we'd have to probably do a Zoom call. You'll have to get in touch with me. If you commit, to buying it, we'll talk for 5-10 minutes, figure out what colors you want, and then I go off, do my thing, and mail it to you. So Joan is saying, I'm thinking fold and snip is your own personal storage system. Not really. Okay. What I do with the snipping is not any different than what almost every other rug hooking teacher does. But what they usually do is they stop here. That's 4 layers, and then you have to buy minimum a 1/4 yard. I have it so that you have to buy minimum a 1/16 of a yard. And that's because it matches with how I hook and how I teach you to hook. I would rather you use 4 or 5 colors for one flower rather than just one wool. Okay, because that's boring, right? So let's talk about how I snip and fold the wool. Okay, so there is a formula, and I don't remember what that number is, but there is no matter how big the piece of paper is, there's a certain number of times you can fold it, and that's as far as it'll go. Wool is kind of the same way, okay? So what you have to do first is snip the halfway part, okay? So here's the selvage going down the edge, and I'm snipping that folded area. And then I'm going to take and figure out how much of the selvage is waste that I'm not going to be using. And I put that past the center point, and then I fold, and I fold, and then I snip 2 sides on that one and 1 on the other. This is why I like these scissors. They're short bladed and they're incredibly sharp, and they'll get in there and they'll snip that. Try it with bigger scissors and you'll know exactly why I like these littler ones. Snip, snip, snip. So all of a sudden you have it in 16th yard increments. You can then take one of those to the cutter and start cutting. But what I do for my shelves is it's sort of like a base 2 system. I go over 4 pieces. I go over 4 more. Now I know this is a whole yard, so I know this is going to fold perfectly in half. But if I didn't know that this was a full yard, then whatever's left will hang down to wherever it hangs down. Then I fold that whole thing in half, and then I fold that in half, then I fold it like this, and then I stick it in the shelf so that this part shows. This is the biggest exposure I can get so that I can see what wool this is, and that works out the very best. And then they go into my shelving units, which are about 15 inches square, and they fit kind of side by side. You kind of have to cram them a little bit. I wish they were like 16, then it would fit a little bit better, but 15 works. 12 is not going to work. You'll have to figure out a different way. You'll have to figure out your own system for folding it. What do I especially like about rug warp? Well, again, watch the video on the different backings. The other thing is it's only 2/3 the price, and it's going to last just as long, okay? Cotton and linen fibers have the same, it's like resivicity or something. There's a special term that they use for fibers about how long it's going to rot. They're like really close together. Burlap's way over here and linen's way out there, okay? So these two are going to rot at about the same rate, but they're going to rot less fast than burlap, but the wool is still going to outlast your backing. So you do want to get the best backing you can, because like I said, it's the same amount of time, it's the same amount of money for all that wool. So don't scrimp on backing. Don't scrimp on the borders around your thing. I've got whole videos on that too. Leave plenty of room, okay? The time to scrimp and be frugal is not with your backing. If you put a nice border around your design and you don't need it because you decided not to make your rug bigger, when you cut that off, that's still big enough to use. If you only have this much, you throw it away. It's too small to do anything with. Okay. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here and asking questions. And I wish I could have put your questions up. And I don't know what I'm going to do if my mouse don't work. It's always come back. All I could figure is that maybe, I don't know if I have a charge block. Can you use knitting wool to rug hook? Sure, you can use knitting wool, you can use cotton, you can use denim, you can use black plastic garbage bags for a witch's hat. Looks really cool. You can use whatever you dang well like. I just happen to prefer 100% wool. And the reason I prefer 100% wool, I hope I'm unplugging the right thing. The reason I like 100% wool is that it stays clean. It doesn't get dirty. Okay, cotton gets dirty, polyester gets dirty, nylon gets dirty. All of that stuff gets dirty. Wool carpeting, you don't see wool carpeting in the stores because it's so freaking expensive. And the people who sold carpeting didn't like it because once you installed wool carpeting in a house, you never had to really install carpeting again. Okay, it just did not wear out. And the dirt just sits on the surface. You vacuum it up and it's good to go. So thank you all for being here. I might just have to hang out for a while if I can't get the mouse to working. Okay. Sonia is saying, I use anything you can pull through the backing. It was a fun experience. 100% wool for anything that will go on the floor or for anything you're not willing to repair. Because once it's on a wall, I mean, there's this huge separation in the rug cooking community about what goes on the floor and what goes on the wall. And I don't buy into that. Okay, because even if you put it on the wall and it's cotton, it's going to get dirty because it's going to absorb humidity and dust is going to stick to it and it's going to get dirty. So, yeah. Yeah, Deb says, I've had wool carpet for 30 years. It looks new. Yeah, it just doesn't. And I had talked to a family member on my aunt's side who owned a furniture store and sold carpeting. And this was years ago. And they said that they were not going to be I'm talking like 45 years ago. We're not going to be carrying wool carpeting anymore because the prices are going up. And once someone buys that, they never come back and buy more. They don't need it. So, yeah. Let me see if my mouse got enough juice. Oh, no. It was supposed to be charging when I was on the phone talking to the doctor at the emergency room. And of course, I wasn't watching it. Well, that's it, everybody. I'm just going to have to hang out here until I'm going to go have to find a charge cue. Oh, I can plug it in over here. I'm going to have to wait until. Oh, that might be what's wrong with that one. That one was bent. Maybe it's time to throw that charge cord away. That might be what was wrong. Okay, so maybe now in a few minutes, my mouse will get back to life. Oh, Linda says, especially informative for me today. Yay! Glad. Pinky Pete, thank you for your expertise. What a cute dog. Carol says, received my order today. Love it. Oh, and tons of orders are going out today. The mailman was out there scanning for quite a while. And thank you for the kind wishes for your mom. Since I've got time and I'm waiting for my mouse to charge, I got a phone call today that mom was taken to the emergency room. So, and it's frantic for me. I'm 6 hours away. There's nothing I can do. And even if I was closer, and my sister is, she can't get in to see her. So it's really tough right now. If you have someone in the hospital, it's a lot like Europe in certain areas. We were getting, at the other house, we were getting new ductwork put in the house. And we had a one-man crew, and I didn't mind if he did it a little bit at a time. That way I could clean up and it wasn't a huge disruption. But it took him a while. He was at the house for like a month. And he was putting in ductwork, and his mom was sick and had to have surgery in Hungary. And he says, you don't understand. In Hungary, it's very different. There are no waiting rooms. You don't go to the hospital and wait for your loved one to come out of surgery. You are outside the hospital. You have no idea what's going on. And the only way you can find out what's going on is by slipping the doctor a couple $100. So luckily we don't have to do that. Dr. Lemon was really good and told me everything that was going on. So I just have to call back in a little bit and find out if they're moving her to a different hospital or if she can stay in the one in Kentucky. So, yeah, it's a horrible time to have a loved one in the hospital. It absolutely is. And I'm not the only one. And mom is good. She's just she needs a little bit of extra care right now. So, that's what they're giving her, and they couldn't do that at the nursing home. The only thing that breaks my heart is that there's a 2-week quarantine for when she comes back. So it's going to be another 2 weeks after she's released from the hospital until she can get back and reunited with dad. So, yeah, not so good. Let's see if my mouse is working. Stupid thing. I'm going to charge the day. It is not working. That means if I end this by any other measure, I'm going to lose the recording. I don't like that. Okay, so what I'm going... Oh, I can't even do that. Oh, there's no way to use the keyboard in this program. So did my mouse just die? Stupid thing. Maybe I need to leave it plugged in a little longer. God, even this one looks bent. Why do all my charge cords look bent like they've been stepped on? Let's try a different one. And then I'm going to have to throw away those other two. They're just nice long ones. Aftermarket ones. Do I have a touchscreen? No, I have an iMac Pro. So it's all about the brains and the guts, not about the fancy part. Sharon is saying that is how it always is in hospital in Ireland as well. Hope all goes well for your mother. Yeah, we don't realize what we have here sometimes because we assume that, we can hold their hand walking down the hallway, and it's only when you get to that line on the floor where, they go into surgery that you've got to let them go. It's not like that for everyone else in the world. You don't get to keep that same kind of a connection. So what's going on with this one, I love this one because I like the color, is this little guy felt wobbly. Now it doesn't. Okay, so that's bizarre. Usually all it needs is a tiny little sip, and that'll get me through. But if that charger is not working... Oh, it says connected. Oh, and it's moving! I can end it. Thanks, guys. And by now, I've totally forgotten everything I promised to add to the bottom of the video. So I'll have to rewatch the video. But I'll go ahead and do that. I'll be editing it for the rug cooking journey anyway, so that'll give me a chance to do that. And no, Lily, I do not have another mouse. This is the MacBook Pro mouse, so nothing else works with it. That's it, guys. Thanks. I'm going to end it before the mouse dies again, okay? See you Wednesday for another lesson, and I'll see you Tuesday if you come to the rug cook-ins. Bye, everybody. Thanks.